let's start with this guy. We actually put him up on the TV too.
This is our newest Chromebook.
Yeah, if you know anything about it, if you can make out what's on the image on the screen back here, you probably can't make it out completely.
Yeah.
That's the Surface Laptop SE.
SE, yeah.
And you'd be forgiven for not knowing what that is.
Student edition, I think,
sure.
is what it stands for. Yeah. So this was
and there was a special version of Windows apparently too that was on it. I say that past tense.
Yeah, she no more. So, but yeah, this was Microsoft's swing at Chromebooks. There was a point in time where Microsoft was developing a sort of cloud-centric version of Windows for classroom and all of that stuff.
Is that what SE was?
I think that was the OS originally. That re-evolved and they kind of switched gears, and then they launched this piece of hardware to try to compete in the classroom.
We went up to New York. We've talked about that on this podcast before, but when we went up to New York and visited Google's whole studio thing, they took us through we walked through a bunch of stuff. Yeah, shout out to Peter if you're listening to this, man. We were tired, man.
Yeah, I feel like at one point in time we were in New Jersey. It was like we were just all over the place.
I didn't have that many steps because we were on a plane that morning, and then we sat in an Uber to get over to Brooklyn to get checked in, and then we hopped on a train or whatever to get over to Manhattan for the evening. And I had I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 steps. Man, by the time we left Google, I had like 15,000.
Yeah,
I'm not
we
kidding.
Ended up like 18 for the day.
It was wild because the building's huge. It's one of those not so much a skyscraper, but super wide, 2 blocks wide kind of
13
buildings.
stories, really wide. And
so we were end to end in this thing and kind of looking for some stuff because, to be fair, Peter doesn't work in that building.
It's not his office, yeah. Exactly.
So he's just like, I think it's over here. Last time I was here. And so we were running around everywhere. But in the midst of all that, he did take us by and we got to meet up. And again, we talked about all this, but we got to meet up and see the ChromeOS Flex labs, which is only a few rooms. It's not like it's some big laboratory and they got beakers and stuff.
But it's so cool.
Yeah. They have a dedicated space where guys can test and guys and gals can test devices and check stuff out. But then they got this really cool room that literally is hundreds of cubby holes filled with laptops. And, it's like a Filofax of laptops. And so we were able to pull up. We were pulling out laptops like, oh, I had this thing.
Yes,
I remember this thing.
So
big old
funny.
chunkers, like old, crusty laptops. But then we saw this guy, the Surface SE, and I was like, I have not actually seen one of these. Again, at the time, I was under the assumption that you could get it at Best Buy. I just hadn't seen one, and I opened it up, and it just gave me all these HP Chromebook 11 vibes. I still love that.
Yeah,
Chromebook.
if you remember that device, it looked very similar to this. Maybe slightly
more pill-shaped,
slightly lighter, pill-shaped, and then it had the little color accents on it.
All the way
and
around here.
It just this looks and feels like what you would expect from an EDU Chromebook. Very much.
But it's stylish. It's not boring like a lot of education devices are. And so, anyway, we were looking at it, and I want to say they told us at that point that it was on the certified list, like it had been certified. And so after that trip, the fact that we learned that certification takes it through a battery of hundreds of tests, it was like, oh, well, I just assumed certification just meant, we booted it works, good.
Yeah.
We actually checked it, but it doesn't. It means they check, volume keys, which the volume keys on this are a little weird. I need to submit feedback on that. But the volume keys are a tad strange, and the function keys, they all technically work and they're all there, but some of the keys don't line
changed
up.
the ChromeOS setting, the function key ChromeOS setting in the keyboard?
Ooh, no, might have to go and mess with that later.
Mess with that later. But yeah, it was interesting because
some of them work right out of the box. Like the brightness doesn't work until I hit function, so that does work once I hit function. But like volume up, these don't do anything until I hit function, and then they do like what the ChromeOS operating system would do. That position would be full
toggle
screen.
actually says treat top row as function keys, so that may fix it. So,
but it's cool. Like I'll get into this in a second. So we saw this device, found out it was certified, found out there were all these tests, and immediately it was like, we want to get a Chromebook that's on the list, that's got the check, because we tried to overwrite the hard drive once with a Mac that was not on that list. It worked with the USB stick, but the BIOS and stuff, we just wasn't having it. It did not work out. And so we wanted to do the full install on now that we knew certified, it was like, this hard testing. We wanted to do it without even testing it.
Yeah.
Like open the thing up, put the USB stick in, and boot ChromeOS Flex.
We wanted to do one of the LG Grams, but it actually isn't on the list anymore.
There was one. I'm telling you, there was one on there, but they got pulled. So maybe once they started really testing this stuff, they might have pulled that list over from Neverware Cloud Ready stuff, and they went back and retested and was like, this isn't quite right. So it was like kind of a perfect storm. Like I've never had this laptop around. It was noted as the, in November-ish of last year, quite a few places called it the Chromebook Killer. This is Microsoft's Chromebook Killer. And so it's like, okay, and then Gabe had the idea of calling it the Killer Chromebook. We're going to turn this Chromebook
about
Killer.
Once every 6 months. I have a good idea.
And so we're like, perfect. This is like this is a video that's going to accomplish multiple things.
Because it is. I mean, this is how much did we pay for this?
$170.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was like
got it on eBay.
Yeah.
I think it retails for like $240 or like $230.
No, is it like rugged and all? It is
ruggedized. It can take some of the spills and some of the. I don't know that it gets mil spec or whatever.
But it's N4120.
Yeah.
So 464.
8128.
8128. Okay, so here's what's interesting. You take this device in a Chromebook that's ruggedized, 8 gigs of RAM, that much storage. And the screen's not horrible. It's not great.
It's pretty good.
It's like
it's a TFT LCD, so not quite IPS, but not a TN panel.
Yeah.
Like it looks good.
This device in the EDU space, if you were getting hold of like Promevo or one of those and buying it, this would be a $400+ device.
Yeah,
and it runs ChromeOS so much better than it runs.
Windows. The little bit. So the story goes, we decided we were going to do it. Once I found one on eBay, we went ahead and ordered it. Got here. And we were like, cool, we're just going to film this. I'm just going to do it. And we'll do a couple camera setups, kind of treat it like an unboxing. Whatever happens, happens. And we want to catch it that way. Well, I get it going. I can't get it to notice the USB stick that's got the ChromeOS Flex image on it. So I was like, okay, let me boot into it. Maybe there's something going on there.
Right.
Well, as soon as we get in there, it wants to take updates. And it's like, well, let's wait because we know how Windows updates go. And so I kept trying. That I couldn't get it to recognize the thing. I'm like, maybe there's something on this because it's an education device. It's locked. Like until it's fully up to date with Windows, it's not even going to look outside the bootloader. So that's fair. I was like, well, I'll update it real quick. That was like 3 hours it took to get that done. And then by that time, we were like, well, we're not filming this today because it was already in the afternoon. But right before I left, I remember you were working on something, and I was like, I can't get the bootloader to work, and I'm trying all this stuff in the BIOS and trying to get it to see it. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. Finally figured out it was it's got secure boot on it.
Yeah, like we had gone, it was a two day ordeal because I had gone and bought more flash drives just to see if maybe something was wrong with the flash drive. We had tried it on Robbie's MSI that we use for the golf simulator, and it's like,
I'm still not sure what happened with that.
Yeah, that was weird because you've done it on the MSI before, haven't you? Like run it from the stick.
Well, what's funny is I think that one of the other ones you got, I put it in the MSI and I got ChromeOS Flex to come up. So I don't know. That was probably
we need to reformat that completely.
This is what I installed this on. Oh, it almost went my coffee.
Is that your big one?
Yeah.
Not mine.
Not my hard drive.
Wow.
But yeah, ended up using this because once I figured out to turn off secure boot, which I feel like Microsoft kind of took that from Google. It's a smart thing to have. Secure boot basically just says, hey, if the image doesn't match the image I had last time, I'm not booting.
Yeah, because I mean, OG Windows devices, you had your boot order, and if you changed that order, you could boot however you wanted to. You didn't really.
No security.
You had to know how to get there, but there wasn't really a lot of security around it.
And there's still not with this. Like I literally flipped the switch to turn it off. It restarted the BIOS, and then it saw the.
Did not give you a warning or anything?
It does. Every time you reboot, there's a huge red bar at the top, and the big unlock thing. Like, ooh, you're in trouble. But I mean, to its credit, ChromeOS does the same thing.
Right.
Like it warns you every time because it's not technically secure booting anymore. Anyhow, got that done and figured out Friday evening, like, okay, I'm seeing ChromeOS Flex come up from this thing, and it's giving me the option to go ahead and install. I'm gonna pause there because I didn't want to test it. I just didn't want to. But because I had to run all those updates and I was messing with stuff, I did get to test it with Windows a little bit, like just the basic navigation. Absolute turd. I mean, so slow. Like, and if you read The Verge's review of this thing, they call it out. I don't remember who wrote the review, but it's like that it's a shame that students are expected to do any kind of like one tab at a time, one thing at a time, which apparently Windows 11 SE on this device, I didn't even test this, but apparently opens everything. If you open an application, it always opens them full screen. Because it wants you to basically focus on the one thing at a time. So I was curious to see how it would run Chrome OS. And we made the video. We'll obviously link that all in the show notes and stuff. But once we got it booted up with ChromeOS Flex on here, I mean, it's a generation old small core Intel processor.
Right.
So we're on N4500 and up now for the small cores. This is a 4000 series, which means it's a Gemini-like processor. So it's not like it's new by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, it runs really well. It's actually pretty fun to use, and the cool part is it's got a great keyboard on it.
Right.
A really solid. It's plastic, but it's a really
That's
solid.
That's the thing. I mean,
trackpad.
even on the cheap end, Microsoft doesn't make janky stuff.
No,
I mean, their hardware's always solid.
Right. You know what this makes me want? I might write this. This makes me want Google. Why doesn't Google make an affordable Chromebook?
An EDU device.
To let's show what's possible on a budget.
Right.
How you can have thoughtful design, and like Google's not going to make Chromebooks unless they're trying to light the weight of something. That's fine. Clearly EDU Chromebooks probably could use a little kick in the pants.
And that's what I don't
they all
get.
kind of look the same.
Yeah, I'm not going to
the same.
pretend to know anything about what goes into the manufacturing and licensings of a Chromebook or whatever, but to see most of your decent anything that's worth working on in the EDU space is $400 more. Some of them are more than that, and I'm just like, I understand that they're ruggedized and they're built for the classroom, but spec-wise, they're so inferior to what's out there on the market, and you can get really powerful premium Chromebooks for $600. So because I can't imagine their margins are that big, so I'm just wondering what makes the overhead so high on an EDU device.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes they get priced that way because they don't really want consumers to bother. I think they want them to go to those channels.
That's probably it, because if you see one that's priced at $429, schools are buying 700 of those. They're probably getting them for $280.
Right.
So
whatever. The pricing we were talking about on this probably wouldn't be that if this was at Best Buy.
Right.
This would be $350 or $400 or something. But that would be a fun disruptor though, to see Google come along and build something like this. It's a Pixelbook. It's the Pixelbook. I don't know what's the name. What's a name that says affordability?
Go. No,
that doesn't work.
Pixelbook.
They could do like Samsung and just name it the same thing and make it worse.
Yeah.
It's the 3.
Is this
Pixelbook 3? It's worse.
It's to be the Pixelbook Go 180 or 178 because it doesn't go all the way down. Yeah.
Anyway, but if they built something like that and like something that this is thoughtfully made. Like this is actually a fun little device to mess with. The camera's pretty decent. The screen's pretty good. Keyboard's really good.
I got it.
And it's $250.
Pixelbook SE.
Write that down. But I mean, if they did something like that, like think about it, they could market that.
It would
and
be
they
awesome.
could disrupt the low-end Chromebook space, because then all of a sudden you've got a device that doesn't feel like 300 or less. Like most devices under $300. Lenovo has done a good job of this.
They have.
But their stuff usually has to go on sale to hit that. But when you get the Duet 3 for under $300, it feels like you're stealing something a little bit. Like you get it out of the box and it's like, this doesn't feel like a cheap device. It doesn't have that feel. It'd be cool to see a clamshell. Doesn't have to be a convertible. Doesn't have to do anything special. Just make a nice, thoughtful Chromebook
and Google
make it
could,
affordable.
Yeah, Google
right
could do it as a not necessarily a loss leader, but like just minimal margin, because
make $5 a piece.
Because for them, it's all about that license and that Chrome OS management anyway. Yep. So you bundle it with a Chrome OS management license, and you cut them a discount there, and boom, you just sell tons of them.
Yeah,
See, hey, Google, call us.
We got ideas. So like a 12-inch, like there's a couple EDU devices that are that small 12-inch, but it's a 3x2 12-inch. It's usually that 1366-ish
like
type
HD
thing.
Plus or something.
It's not great. 1080p style screen in a 12. Kind of take the screen that's on the, what is Samsung's thing? Samsung Galaxy Chromebook 2 360.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, you nailed it.
It's the worst names.
But that's why they haven't put one out in a while. They're trying to reinvent the
They're just like, look, we don't know what we're doing. We have to try again. Like, hey, Galaxy Chromebook 2. Oh wait, they did that already and it was worse than they could just start over with the 3. It's Galaxy Chromebook 3. Move on.
Is it the same as the Chromebook 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
No.
Or get rid. Well, they shouldn't get rid of the Galaxy name. But anywho, like take that screen because that's a cool screen. It's probably overkill. It's Quad HD and a 12-inch screen. It's too much. Like something between those two. Good keyboard, decent speakers. It could be plastic. This is all plastic. It doesn't feel janky to use. And so we don't have to talk about this anymore. But it's really cool to see. I wanted to have it up here. We're actually casting that up there with this too. And because it's ChromeOS Flex, like I can't stress this enough. This thing doesn't feel like a Windows device that I put some weird version of Chromium OS. Like, and this is, Google bought, is it Neverware?
Cloud Ready's the company.
Neverware's
the company. Cloud Ready's the OS, yeah.
It's not like Cloud Ready, and it's no knock to Cloud Ready. Google bought that company to create ChromeOS Flex. But when I used it, you felt it. Like you always felt like, because it was multiple versions behind. So the stuff that you were used to using on your Chromebook, there'd be features that just weren't here. This is in step. It's in lockstep. It's on 10. What are we on now?
Should be 7.
107?
Should be on 7. Yeah.
Let me just check, make sure. So I'm not blowing smoke.
I feel like
here.
I wrote that up.
Yep, .ChromeOS 107.
There you go.
.92. I saw my version actually today for some reason. It's the exact same version. So it's really cool to be able to use this. Again, I know people are like, well, it doesn't have Android apps. If Android apps were like perfect on Chromebooks, I would completely hear the argument there.
And that's not, honestly, that's just
Android
not a
apps
huge selling point, especially for budget-friendly EDU devices.
Yeah,
Android apps aren't a big deal.
Yeah, being able to use this thing as a Chromebook, you can turn Linux containers on, I think. Let's see.
Yeah, it's kind of a per device basis, but it's Intel. It should.
I don't know why you would want to do such a thing, but let's just see if it's here.
I'm going to run DaVinci Resolve on it. Yeah,
it's right there. I can turn it on. Yeah, I'll just turn it on while we're sitting here.
Oh, jeez.
Sure, 10 gigs.
So this is wiped, right? This is like installed.
This is full-blown install. Okay. And we did it on video, so that wasn't faked or anything like that. I did that right then just to see what happened. And it worked.
Robbie's over here making moon landing videos and stuff.
Like sweating, like, please work. I've put like 3 days into this stupid video, but it worked. It worked perfectly. And it said the Linux environment turned on. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll get there.
But yeah, it's ChromeOS Flex is pretty amazing for that, and the whole process they go through for vetting devices and making things work is kind of mind-numbing. And we wanted to test all that. We wanted to test all that stuff out and see if we could make this little dude into a cool Chromebook. And I'm not lying to you. When I pick this up and mess with it, I might do it tomorrow, or I was going to do it maybe Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to work for a couple days from this.
All right. Thank you for watching this clip of the Chromecast podcast. This was just a little snippet, little nugget of what we do here. So if you check the description below, you can find the full episode of the Chromecast podcast on the Chromecast podcast YouTube channel. And while you're there and while you're here, go ahead and click subscribe.
Yep.
Like.
Yes.
Notification bell.
Yes.
That way you don't miss an episode, because you never know when Joe might not be here and we get to do all kinds of crazy stuff. So, all right, we'll see you next time.